Hello and welcome to episode number 121 of WP Café, the show where we share the real, unfiltered experience of running a WordPress business. I'm Keith Devon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mark Wilkinson. We're from Highrise Digital, a tiny agency building WordPress websites and products. Today, we're diving into a number of different topics. We've got a few position sticky. The block API version 3 when using ACF. We've got async versus background processes. We've got an update on offline kids. We've got the exciting news of Mark's new desk. So grab a brew, settle in as we explore what it's really like behind the scenes of our business. You can follow us over on X at WP Cafe Show and find us on Blue Sky and the web wpcafe.show. If you enjoyed the episode, please do hit subscribe, leave us a comment, share it with somebody, hit the like button, whatever you can do to help out. That would be super useful. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, especially if you're watching along on YouTube Live. Please do say hello in the comments there, join the conversation, and let us know what you think. Before we get started, as always, a little update. Mark, how's your week been?
It's been fine. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I've got a bit of a setup today because obviously this desk, I've constructed said desk, but it's not actually operational as such with all my tech kit. So I've decamped into the kitchen with a different microphone, so hopefully I sound all right. I've been all right this week. Yeah, it's I've just finished, nothing to do with WordPress, but I've just finished spending 40 minutes trying to dismantle a paddling pool outside.
Dismantling a paddling pool? Well, do you keep it up in the winter and put it away in the summer? I thought you guys do up north.
Well, it was full of water. It's been full of water for the last 2 weeks because the kids have been out, so the weather's been great. And then the water started to resemble like a green swamp.
Yes,
so I had to sort of get rid of the water, then clean it somehow, which was manky. And then it's now kind of like sat in the sun drying because it's going to rain tonight here, apparently, for the first time in a long time.
Oh, we had a torrential downpour yesterday. I literally put the sprinkler out the night before because my garden is absolutely bone dry. So I'd had the sprinkler on for a bit, and it literally was torrential within 24 hours. So that was a bit of a waste of water, but there you go.
Oh, well. So I've used all the water. I've filled the water up. I've watered all the plants at the front, and then let the grass have a bit of it as well because obviously it's been so dry. So it's not gone to waste. But that was my So I've absolutely filthy and wet through.
You know you're middle aged when you're kind of hoping for rain for your garden.
Yeah. So that's my day today. Other than that, just ticking along really. Few bits and bobs. Things I've done, been working on some job relay updates, which we spoke about last week, and kind of learning more about that.
Well, you pushed it live since we last spoke, right?
I pushed it live, yeah.
So the background queue process.
It seems to work. Like, it works. I can see it works because jobs get posted. But what I would say is that I've had an unusually high request from people saying that my jobs haven't posted, and they're actually job adder integrations. And when I'm talking high, I'm talking, I think we've got like 80 odd customers that use job adder. I'm talking like 3 people rather than maybe one that I'd normally get. So it's not like I'm unusually high, but I don't know if that's a coincidence or whether that's something to do with what I've done, but we'll have to have a look at it when we look at each individual case.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some optimizations and some tweaks that are going to have to be made. You know, we've already spoken about a few ways that we can potentially.
Yeah, one of them was, at the moment, every job that comes to us gets passed on to them, to the WordPress site. And actually, that doesn't make any sense because it might not have been updated.
Mm-hmm.
So each client has an XML feed, essentially, that job adder deliver to job relay. And it might be that they've changed one job, but actually what we're doing is sending all those jobs again. So I've kind of been working on a little system where I can check whether it's been updated. There's an updated date field, and if that hasn't changed, then just ignore it, really. Don't carry on sending it. And it can also speed the process up, just make it a little bit more efficient, I think. So I need to work on that. But as I said to you this morning and yesterday, I'm only on one monitor at the moment, sat in the kitchen, so I can't cope with heavy development with one monitor.
Nah,
it's just not going to work.
Productivity is down 50%.
Yeah, so we'll get stuck into that next week. But it's Bank Holiday Monday. Got to remember that as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, not bad. What about yourself?
Yeah, good week. Lots of progress and excitement with offline kids. So I don't know if that's worth
Starting with
diving into straight away. I guess so.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So yeah, obviously, if you haven't been listening along to the show before, we launched a website a couple of weeks back called Offline Kids. Offline.kids is the domain, and it is a directory of screen-free activities that you can do with your kids, or your kids can do themselves. And we've been building that up, building the site itself, adding the activities, just generally trying to edge it forward and keeping track of things. So this week, I had my cousin come around, who is a pretty top communications kind of specialist. She used to work for a top consultancy, and as I can't remember some of the brands. She's worked with some mega brands in the UK, primarily internal comms, but generally like branding and marketing type stuff, strategic type stuff. So she'd done a little kind of slideshow of like the kind of thing that we might put together to present our message to other people, whether it's like press release type stuff, or whether you were like pitching to an investor or a partner or whatever. So she's putting stuff together around like the mission. She's putting stuff together around competitors. She's putting stuff together around the tone of voice. So that was one of the most interesting for me, is just to make sure we're getting that right. So make sure that the language is always inclusive and accessible, and the activities and everything. For example, talking about parents and carers rather than just parents. And interestingly, I actually had an email, or like someone filled in the contact form on the website this week and said, I'm actually a grandparent, and this site's going to be really useful because I have to look after my kids and stuff. So yeah, that was great doing that. And actually, that's my cousin. She actually pulled me back a little bit from kind of launching, like kind of more hard launching the website, trying to really get the word out. I was like, should I set up all these social media profiles and start posting stuff? And she's like, I think you just need to get some of this stuff right first. Really like dial in the messaging and the branding, and probably improve the site slightly before you really start pushing it. And I've got real mixed feelings about that, because we've spoken about it before. Like, there's a lot of advice in the startup world about just like getting stuff out there, getting real feedback, just going for it and improving over time, and don't wait for things to be perfect. So when is this site kind of ready to go and ready to tell the world about?
It's a bit.
I don't know.
It's a bit different though than a product that we've built before, I think, because obviously, if we take Job Relay when it was in its really early stages, it was kind of like nothing like it is today. The concept was the same, but the rawness of how it worked wasn't, and people actually didn't care because it did a job.
But also the way we presented it. I mean, the website is just like a vanilla WordPress theme. Like, we didn't.
But that's what I mean. And my point being is that because it solves a problem, people generally don't care. Like, I just want the problem solved. So they don't really care about the website and the fact that it's a bit raw.
Yes.
And granted, fixing those things makes it better. I'm not saying you shouldn't fix them, but I just think, but in this instance, it's not really a product. I think when people land on the site, those impressions probably do matter.
Because the site is the product.
Exactly. So I think it's probably a little bit different in that it's not quite that what we usually say, like just get it out there and so on. I think there has to be sort of a standard.
I agree. And I've had some good feedback so far. Like, generally, I've had really good feedback. Like, everyone, but I've also had some good feedback in the sense that critical feedback about a few things, which is actually what I want. It's really, really nice for people to say nice things. It's really, really useful for people to point out the things that aren't great and that could be improved. Like, that's what I really want. So if you're so inclined to go and check out offline.kids, please do say nice things, but please also say honest, critical things. That would really help. So that was great. And then it was funny.
There's a lesson there for feedback, isn't there? Because actually, so many times you ask for feedback for something, and everyone jumps on and says, "Yeah, it's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful." But you don't want that, do you? You actually want them to be almost annoying in a way, and say, "Well, I went on and I couldn't see this, or I didn't do that," or I think you want them to tell you all the stuff that just bug them, but they don't really want to tell you it because it's not. They don't feel as though they're being nice, but actually they are. They're being. That's exactly what you want them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, try and say it in a nicer way, but that's the sort of stuff you've got to be pointing out as for feedback, I think.
Yeah.
Anything that you didn't understand or didn't get or couldn't find or that sort of stuff.
So it was funny because the day after I was with Anne, so I was with Anne on Wednesday, and then yesterday, I opened my inbox and I'm on the smartphone-free childhood newsletter. So it's a movement here in the UK to try to kind of delay giving kids smartphones for not as long as possible, but until about 12 years old. So I'm on that newsletter and I was just scrolling through and browsing that newsletter, and I was like, hang on a sec, offline kids was mentioned. I was like, that's cool. So I think because I'm in one of the local WhatsApp groups for that organization, I'd posted it a few days previously. And then after Anne had said, don't kind of try to promote too hard yet, I was like, okay, I'll rein back from that kind of thing. But the cat's out of the bag. So it went in the newsletter, and we got a really nice little spike in traffic. So nothing huge, 300 and something people rather than 30 people yesterday. But what was really encouraging was the newsletter signups. Something that I just thought nobody's gonna sign up for. It's not particularly well optimized on the site. I didn't think it was particularly compelling. But out of the 330 odd people that visited the site yesterday, about I think 11 or 12 now signed up for the newsletter. So
I think that's huge.
I think that's a massive conversion.
Conversion rate. I think that's massive.
I really do as well.
More a sign of things to come, or whether that's just.
I don't know. I did say once that I don't know how this is going to pan out, because the site has come about because of the idea that I've had for years about some kind of kids activity directory, and then the tech that we built. And I thought those two married up really well to create a directory of kids, very searchable, filterable, SEO friendly directory. So I thought, right, that's how the idea was born. But the more I think about it, the more I could imagine this morphing into something maybe slightly different. The site is the site, and it's okay. But the actual maybe real asset is the mailing list or the podcast or the such and such, or the social media accounts, or I don't know what it's going to be, and how parents and carers are going to want to be contacted, where that interaction is going to primarily take place. I don't know yet, but
that's kind of what's exciting about these projects, isn't it? Is that you don't know what's going to happen to them. You've got this idea, but actually sometimes they turn out being not completely different, but they go down a different path that you didn't think about, and it's quite exciting.
Yeah,
it's quite cool. That. Do you want to come back on Ross's comment? Thank you, Ross, for putting this in. He said it's just about feedback. He says, my rule is not to give unsolicited feedback on things like this, but you solicited it, so you got it. I think that's a really good idea. If you don't just contact people and say, your website's pants, it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. But if you ask for it, go for it. Literally, give them the feedback. So thank you for that, Ross.
Yeah, Ross was great. He really helped me out. So that was fun. I'm gonna just put in the YouTube comments a link to the little blog post I did about the feedback form, so that if anybody wants to book a call with me, just to talk through the site, how they use it, what they think, then there's the opportunity to do that. So it's a great week. It's obviously still going very slowly in terms of traffic is minimal and stuff like that, but it feels like it has a little bit of natural momentum. There's enough people that are being like, yeah, this is cool, this is really good.
It's a very in topic, isn't it, at the moment? I think. You hear it in the news about kids not having smartphones till they're older.
Yeah.
So it feels like now's the time. If it's going to happen, it's now's the time. So
yeah. So that's that was a good portion of my week, and it's been really very satisfying this week. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. What is the next item on the list?
Well, there's a couple of things. Position sticky. I just added this to the list this week because it was an interesting little challenge I had. So was this in the block editor or was this for a client? This was for a client.
It's for a client, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
I mean, was this offline kids or a client? So this is for a client, and they wanted me to improve just the general layout and style of a couple of pages on the website. So I went in, and it's built in a block editor. So I was just like laying things out, and I was like, I'd really like to have a sticky, it's like sidebar links,
nav, links,
nav, like on page nav. So I added a group, had columns, added a group to the column, made it sticky, like position sticky, and it didn't work.
Position sticky in the editor. There's a box to tick, isn't there?
Yeah. And I looked up the front end. It's like, it's not sticking. I was like, is the column the right height? Yeah, the column's the right height. Everything was right. And weirdly, it worked in the editor. And I was just like, so it was sticky in the editor and not on the front end. And I was like, something weird's going on here. So anyway, I was Googling around, Stack Overflowing, and probably ChatGPTing and all sorts. And then I came across this thing, Overflow. Where is it? Yeah, Overflow clip. So I had an element above the sticky group that had set overflow to hidden. I think I'd put it on like, I don't know, it was like entry content. It was or like block wrapper div or something like that.
Whatever you're wrapping your blocks in.
Whatever I'm wrapping all the blocks in, and that wasn't in the editor.
Yeah, it wouldn't
for whatever reason. So I'd set that to overflow hidden for some reason. I can't remember exactly why, because sometimes things break outside whenever you're trying to
that's what you said.
Offset images and stuff.
So you could break outside the container, I think you said.
Yeah. So I was like, well, how am I going to solve this? So there's this property that I didn't know called overflow clip. And I don't fully understand the difference between clip and hidden, but it effectively does the same thing, but fixes issues like this. So there you go. I set overflow clip on it and it works. Is
overflow clip a universal thing, or is it only specific browsers?
It's universal, but not. It's fully supported in modern browsers.
Right.
And I think it had like 96% coverage. And I've just done it, so I've set overflow to hidden, then overflow to clip. So that if clip doesn't work, hidden will work, and it just won't stick. Like it doesn't break. It's just like progressive enhancement.
Progressive,
we'll call it.
Makes it better, but doesn't kill it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Excelams has just said there. Yeah, overflow clip is useful, but it isn't supported on old versions of iOS. Yeah, old versions of iOS are a pain in the backside, aren't they, these days? Which we've come across it a good few times now. So it's just a little tip if anyone's struggling with that stuff, sticky positioning. But that was that. And then we had a bit more of a debate, Mark, on async and background processes.
We did.
Do we have any further understanding on the difference?
I do now, yes. And thanks to Ross for jumping in as he does with his excellent explanations of things. I actually just need to find the explanations. Here we go. So in the, I don't even know what to call it, the Delicious Brains script thing that was using, the WP background processing, it offers two options for creating a background process, I guess it's calling it. And that's an async request or a background process. And I just couldn't quite understand the difference between the two. And I actually had a lot of people jump in and answer. I just thought Ross, as usual, was really clear in his answers to what it was. So he says an async request is a one-off job that you want to run immediately. So it happens straight away, but it doesn't stop anything else from happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And a good example of that is, let's say we send a job and it fails. we need to send an email to say that it's failed, but we don't. That doesn't need to stop the next thing happening, if that makes sense. Whatever happens next, it can go, and it can go now, or in 10 seconds, or in 5 seconds, or in 30 seconds. But it doesn't need to stop the next thing from happening. So that's what an async request is. It's good for doing those one-off tasks that you want to run straight away, but you don't want to stop the flow of the next thing in your script running. And then there is obviously background tasks, or they call them background processes, should I say, is a queue of jobs that runs in order. So, task 1 happens, task 2 doesn't happen. I say task 2, it's the wrong thing. Second thing in the queue doesn't happen until the first thing's finished, and so on like that. So that's good for like sending jobs. So put jobs in a queue, and we'll do 1, and then we'll do 2, and then we'll do 3, and more can be added to the bottom of the queue as we're doing them. That kind of makes sense. So I think I understand that much better now. And I can start to think about what I might use async requests for. For example, sending the emails for logs, which I don't think I've got implemented yet, but that makes more sense. So I think what I've got is a good start. And I've already talked about some enhancements I can make to, only sending jobs that haven't been updated. And then there's more enhancements I can do with stuff like this. So I think it's a work in progress still. What I've got works, but I can make it much, much better with the stuff that I'm learning all the time. So it's good.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I think I understand it a little bit better now as well. I still don't understand general computer science, so I still don't really understand like what limits the number of processes that can happen simultaneously, for example, on a server or in a browser, or that kind of stuff I don't quite get. So yeah, I think if I understood the kind of science behind computing, all of this would make way more sense to me. But I don't have that background, unfortunately.
Someone with way more knowledge than me will be able to answer that question. But I think from my minimal understanding, one of the differences between PHP and JavaScript is that PHP runs in order, and the next thing doesn't run until the first thing's finished, if that makes sense. So if you've got something that's sending a request to a URL, it's going to wait for the result of that URL before it carries on step 2 in your PHP code.
Yeah.
Whereas JavaScript kind of just runs, boom, finished. So it never waits for the result of something. I think that's how it works. Again, someone can correct me. But I think that's more language than it is hardware or computer processing. I don't know. It's probably very complicated and probably something we shouldn't be discussing now. So
I completely agree. A few comments here. BP, sticky on a group and not a column. Yeah, I did it on the group. The column won't work because it'll be the full height of the columns block, so it will never have anywhere to kind of move. So I definitely did it on a group within a column block. That's a very good point. And he also says, if you have a div that is not closed, it could be that. Yeah, interesting. I shouldn't have that because I'm using the block editor and everything should be closed nicely, but that is true. Ross just says here, async kind of skips the queue because you want it to happen immediately. Yeah, that's right. Sam, hi Sam. Sam says, we've had an issue where a second background job starts before the first has finished, especially with a large data set. E.g., the cron runs again before it's finished processing the queue. Does that make sense to you? Is that something that might happen to us?
No, but I've not seen that in my testing. So I don't know the answer. I've not seen that in my testing. So what I was testing was I had an XML file with like 2,000 jobs in it, and I posted those to the site, and then obviously it starts to process those jobs and put them in the queue. Yeah. And then I saw the queue started to execute, so I was just logging stuff to see it in a log file, bang, 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 it's working. And then I could send another 2,000 jobs, and they would have, that's a different XML, so we'd have like different job titles and things, so I'm logging different things, and they wouldn't start processing until that first 2,000 has been finished, which kind of is what I want. So
yeah, you're adding it to a singular queue.
Yeah, and it processes that first batch first, and then it runs on to the next batch that you've added. And then I tried it again, like send straight away again, and it still just added them all to the queue in the right order. So
Yeah.
I mean, the order doesn't really matter to me. I suppose it does in that if you're a customer, you want yours posted first if you've posted it first, but the order doesn't really matter.
Yeah, okay. And then Sam also says, worth throwing out there as this can cause multiple jobs to build up over time and start to consume more resources. Okay, interesting. Roth counters with Sam, I'm not sure execution order is guaranteed. I'll check that out. And then says, no, queues work on a first in, first out basis.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I wonder what's going on. So that's what you just described, Mark, the first in, first out basis.
That's
so
right,
he's Sam, just out of interest, are you using the Delicious Brain script? That would be interesting to know if that's the script you're using. FYI, I'm not using the Delicious Brains. So yeah,
there is a WooCommerce one that someone mentioned last week, which is apparently very popular and worth looking at, but we're not using that one. I also just want to mention Reese. Thank you, Reese. Hi there. I have a degree in computer science, and I'm still baffled by it. Yeah. Well, I have very little in terms of computing. I have a half an A level in IT, which was back in the mid-90s, so it was completely irrelevant. That's it. That's all I have.
I've got nothing. By the way, Reese, hello, and yeah, like I said, I loved your game. So Reese has just built a little game called Gone Fishing, and it's I'm so impressed by something. I wouldn't even know where to start. I don't even know really how to describe it. It's like
presumably it has something to do with fishing.
Vert fishing, as in not fusion fishing. So you kind of place counters on a board, and there's a game like this that I've played before where you build up counters, and then once you they kind of expand once you've got to get to a certain number. There's a game on my phone that I've played with my daughter that's like that, but Reese's version is really fun, and you kind of play it against the computer. I'm yet to understand the strategy behind it. I just try to fill the board as much as possible, and then it was a very tense ending though. Me versus the yellow AI got close. He nearly wiped me out, and then I made a stunning comeback. So it's a fun little game. You should check it out. Throw the link.
I was going to say throw the link up, Reese, because I've not seen it. I'll have a look
throw the link in the comments, and people can play. It's just great. I'm so impressed by stuff like that. I know he's had a lot of fun. Building
Ross just mentioned as well, WooCommerce equivalent to the background processing is called Action Scheduler. I did look at that, but after I'd found the background processing one and kind of worked on that. So I think it does a few more things. That when I read it, it's like does logging and things for you without having to do things. But I don't know. Have a look at it anyway. I think a lot of people do use it, so it's perhaps worth looking at as well.
Yeah, cool. And just a quick hello to Nick, who's also
hi, Nick.
In the comments. Hello, Nick. So the next topic was the Block API version 3 thing. So just a little bit of background to this. It's probably not massively exciting, but it might be relevant to some people. We built a site fairly early on in the days of the block editor, wasn't it? It was
2021, I think.
Yeah, so that's pretty early
when it was sort of being built.
Yeah. So we decided to go with the block editor. Like that was a very conscious decision at that point. I'm glad we did. But the site is now obviously 4 years old, and we've used things like our own. Well, do we have some of our own actual native blocks on that site? I think the majority of the blocks that we built, custom blocks that we built for that project, were using ACF.
I think they're all ACF, to be honest.
They might all be ACF. And obviously, we've got a bunch of other plugins on there and stuff as well. So
Bob wasn't around back then to help us build.
Bob wasn't around, but also like things have moved on. So even things as simple as the API version for theme.json, I don't think our theme.json even had a version, because versions for theme.json didn't exist back then. So it was on a different kind of schema. And essentially, the problem has come around because my front-end styles, my front-end CSS is bleeding into the whole dashboard, like the whole editor. So I had, for example, styles for lists that were kind of styling the main dashboard sidebar in a weird way. I have styles for field sets and checkboxes and stuff that is bleeding into like everything.
The biggest worry was when we had the block and post tabs on the right hand side. For some reason, well, so if you click on the block, the sidebar changes to the block settings, and if you click on the post, it changes to the post settings. And the titles of those have just completely disappeared, haven't they?
Yeah, well, they were white because links were white in a certain circumstance. I can't remember. Yeah, it was like it was a button style or something like that had bled. Anyway, all of this is now solved in WordPress because the block editor is loaded in an iframe. But for that to happen, all of your plugins need to be on. Not all of your plugins. All of your custom blocks need to be on API version 3, and ours weren't because we were using ACF. And it turns out that this is a real head scratcher for ACF, for even the team there. This is kind of a problem that is difficult stroke impossible to solve. So the only solution is that you can set the API version to 3, but you have to turn off the being able to switch between the preview and edit mode in the block editor. So, and effectively, you have to set it to preview, always preview. So all of the block settings then get moved to the sidebar because they can't load the scripts and things that they need in an iframe. So you can do it, and we can update everything, and I think we are going to go down that route. But we do lose a bit of the kind of nice UI for those custom blocks.
There is another issue though, isn't there, in that the blocks we've built with ACF are built before ACF moved to the native register block function. I'd have to look into exactly how it works, but ACF blocks now can have a block.json file. Ours don't. They don't have a block.json file. They use like register ACF block or something like that as a legacy thing. So I don't know if that means that I don't know how easy it is to upgrade them from the old registering of block system in ACF to the new one. I'm sure
it would be a bit of a disaster if it has to be a new block, because obviously these blocks are used across multiple sites on a multi-site network. So
yes, let's hope that is the case. But I haven't looked into that yet. But just when we did that test, didn't we, on just my local site, and I just created a dead simple block. I just literally copied it off the ACF how to create a block, and then we tried to get it to do what we said, like force to preview mode, which it worked, but I had to set version 3 in the block.json file because it doesn't tell you to do that when you register one. And I can't do that for the ones we've got because we don't have one. So
another example of my complete lack of understanding is, why can't they load their own scripts within that iframe? Why isn't there? Because presumably there is some JavaScript running in that iframe, and that JavaScript is being loaded from somewhere. So why can't ACF,
why isn't there some hooks and things that
why can't ACF push their JavaScript into that iframe? I don't really understand that.
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's just, like you said, the hooks for that don't exist. It's just currently impossible. But it seems like that would be maybe really good reasons to avoid that kind of thing. But there's obviously JavaScript running in there and files being loaded. So,
all this came about, didn't it? Because we want to update the editor as such, because it's such a legacy thing. So that's one of the big problems with it, in that like these styles are bleeding into the admin. And we've kind of, I mean, to be fair to the client, they've kind of put up with that for the last 12 months at least, haven't they? And we've said it's always our intention to sort of try and fix that. But other than that, we also want to add controls to the editor, like padding, margin, border radius, because the client's got some new designs that we want to build, and we sort of look at those designs and think we could actually build those in the editor if we had the controls, but we don't. So we'd have to then build something more custom or with custom classes and things, and it just becomes a pain. So we said we really want to update the editor by adding those things. We don't really know what the knock-on effects are going to be. So it's a matter of just spending a little bit of time working out. And the result of that was, I think, from what you said, was, look, we can add the pad and the margin and stuff. That's fairly straightforward. But the CSS bleeding into it has bigger effects because we've got these custom blocks and things. So we need to do some more work in those. So
exactly,
we will attempt to do that and get back to you, I'm sure.
Nick has said, I'm pretty certain I have migrated old ACF blocks to the new block.json method without breaking existing content.
That is good news.
That is promising.
Yes, I like it. Good.
Yeah, let's hope that works okay.
It might be really straightforward because like the fields and the way you register the fields and the field groups hasn't really changed, does it? So it's just to get, how do you sort of tell ACF this is a block and then assign those fields to the block? So yeah, maybe it's not as complicated as I think, but it's we need to test it with one of the blocks and things, and see how that goes.
So we've saved the most thrilling topic to the end of the show. It's your new desk, Mark.
It's not exactly that thrilling. Just more information actually, because so 2020 I bought an IKEA becamped sit stand. You have the same one, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I think I put a custom top on though. I bought a different top for mine. I just bought the legs. Yeah.
Right. Oh, you're right. You did. Mine was just a wood coloured top. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So with that 2020 got that, and then a few months ago, you'll have noticed it wouldn't work. I don't know why. It just I unplugged it, replugged it in, checked everything was plugged into the little transformer that sits underneath, and it just wouldn't work. And then I kind of just accepted that it was like it's dead. So that was it. And then I was yesterday, or not yesterday, earlier this week? It must have been. And I just thought I'm just going to jump onto IKEA and see if you can order like a new power unit. And it said they had them, but you couldn't order them, or you had to contact customer services. So is there a chat I can jump on? So I jumped on the chat, and it was actually a real person, which was useful. And I said that this is broken. Can you this is the part number, because someone else on the internet had found the right part number that you need. And he said, the chap just said, no, we can't send you that. You'd have to go into a store and sort of they may be able to source you one. But he said, it's under a 10-year warranty as your desk. So just go and pick another one off the catalogue and we'll send it you. I was like, okay, that's fine. So they don't do the one I had, but he said you can just pick something else and we'll deliver it to you. So I picked what looked like the equivalent, essentially. It's actually a bit better because it has memory things. So you can remember like your top level and your low level, and then just press a button and it'll go straight to them.
Oh, I quite like
which
that.
I need to work out how to set it out.
Yeah.
The top one wasn't so bad for me because I always had it right to the top.
Yeah.
When I'm stood up, but the bottom one I usually have it a setting. I drew a pencil line on one of the legs so I knew when to drop it to.
Yeah.
But the memories are pretty good. And then it was cheaper. So they said, there's 110 quid to refund as well. So I was like, fair enough. That got delivered yesterday. And
bit of a result.
Me and my son built it last night, and then I need to set it all up now and sort all the wires out and everything. So that was a pain, or will be a pain. Hence the reason why I'm sat in the kitchen right now, watching the birds outside, which is quite nice.
That should go on offline, kids, by the way, as an activity. Build some IKEA furniture with your
Build
kid.
flat pack furniture, yeah.
My daughter loves it. She was like,
Depends what you get, though, isn't it? Some are really complicated. I must admit that was quite straightforward. IKEA are usually pretty good, actually, to build.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah.
Some of the ones you get from some of the companies are like, who on earth wrote these instructions? Like, because this is ridiculous. Shocking. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my evening yesterday evening, and my evening this evening will be to get it all together.
So you're going to be operational,
fully operational
after this evening.
Back into development mode. Yeah. Well, it might take me all weekend, to be fair, but we'll start it this weekend. Certainly.
Ross.
Depends what happens.
So I said about like building IKEA furniture with your children. Ross said, but don't take them to IKEA. Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's either, I think it could probably go one of two ways. Either they love it and they're running around and you can't chase them and it's just stressful that way, or they hate it and they're complaining the whole time. So I reckon,
or it gets very expensive very quickly.
Hence, don't take your kids to IKEA. Yeah. Paul's just asked, are either of you going to WordCamp EU? No,
that would be a no. Why are we not going to WordCamp EU? When is it anyway? Is it next month?
It must be coming up.
Yeah.
It's coming up pretty soon. It started June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul, to be honest. You asked the question, Mark, why are we not?
It's a bit of a pain to get to, I think, for us, when we looked at the sort of... And it's quite expensive. It's
quite expensive. But just, I think I would like to go just for the hell of it, just for the fun of it. But I can't make a business case for it really. The only the main business case would be probably spending some time with you, Mark, and just doing a business trip. Just like seeing each other.
But we don't need to go to Basel to do that, do we? So
we don't need. Yeah. So yeah, no, we're not going. I've never been to WordCamp Europe. I hear very good things. But yeah, it's just not really my cup of tea.
I don't think I'll be a fan of like really large conferences though.
No.
With lots of people milling about and lots of, I don't know. I don't think that would be my sort of fit, but I might be wrong. I can't say until I've been, obviously. But yeah. That's one of my reservations. I always say if WordCamp London ever comes back, like I'll be there in a flash. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Just the right size for me. I'd prefer it to be smaller probably, but yeah. But yeah, enjoy, Paul. I know my friend Mark Howells-Mead is going to be there. He'll probably, he'd be probably good to chat to. He's a good guy, so save yourself.
I'm sure there's lots in the chat going as well, so you can meet up with each other.
I'm sure there'll be loads of great people there. Like I always have a bit of FOMO when it's going on, I have to admit, but it's never broken through to actually going. So, So you are. Well, I think we should wrap it up there.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
Thanks for joining us today, folks. It's always great to have you along. Thanks for your questions and comments. Please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, all the good stuff.
Sharing is good.
And see you possibly next week, although it is half term, so I don't know. So next week or the week after, if you're subscribed, you won't miss it. So see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.